In 1997, the quiet town of Willow Creek, Oregon, became the center of one of the most disturbing paranormal cases in American history. What began as a simple home restoration project turned into a nightmare that left investigators, priests, and journalists shaken for decades. The old Hargrove house sat at the end of a dirt road, abandoned since the late 1950s, after the mysterious death of its owner, Eliza Hargrove. Locals claimed her spirit never left, that lights flickered from its cracked windows, and cries could be heard echoing through the forest on moonless nights. When the Daniels family bought the house to renovate it into a bed and breakfast, they dismissed the stories as small-town superstition. But within days of moving in, they noticed things that couldn't be explained. Cold spots, whispering voices, and the faint smell of burning candles filled the air. Their daughter, Lily, began talking to someone she called Miss Eliza. At first, her parents thought it was an imaginary friend, until she started waking up covered in scratches. Then furniture began moving on its own. Mirrors shattered without warning. When the family brought in a local historian, they learned the chilling truth. Eliza Hargrove had been accused of witchcraft in 1957 after several children in the town vanished. She was found dead in her bedroom, her body arranged in the shape of a pentagram. What followed over the next 6 months was documented in journals, police reports, and recordings so disturbing that they were locked away for years. This is the true story of what happened in the Hargrove house, the possession of Willow Creek. The Daniels family arrived at the Hargrove house on a chilly April morning. The fog rolled thick across the road as the moving truck creaked up the gravel path. Sarah Daniels, a teacher from Portland, stepped out first, holding her daughter Lily's hand. Her husband, Mark, followed, camera in hand, excited to document their new beginning. The house looked older than they remembered. The paint peeled like dead skin, vines crawled up its sides, and the porch sagged as though exhausted from holding too many secrets. "It just needs love," Sarah whispered, trying to convince herself. As they unpacked, Lily wandered to the upstairs hallway. "Mommy," she called. "The lady said I can have her room." Sarah froze. "What lady, sweetheart?" Lily pointed to the far end of the hall. "Miss Eliza. She said she's been waiting for me." Mark laughed nervously when Sarah told him. "You know how kids are." She probably heard the name from the realtor. But that night, when the wind howled through the cracks and the walls seemed to sigh, even Mark couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't alone. The next morning, they found small footprints in the dust, too small to belong to Lily, and leading from the attic to her bedroom. Mark checked every window and door. All were locked. That evening, while unpacking in the basement, Sarah discovered an old trunk nailed shut. Inside were brittle photos, a leather-bound diary, and something else, an antique mirror wrapped in cloth. On the mirror's surface, someone had written in faded crimson letters, "Welcome home," Sarah screamed, dropping the mirror. It didn't break, but her reflection smiled when she didn't. The next few days passed in uneasy quiet. Sarah tried to distract herself with work, while Mark painted the downstairs hallway. But strange noises soon became part of their daily routine. Soft scratching behind the walls, faint whispers during the night, and the faint sound of footsteps pacing in the attic when no one was there. Lily, meanwhile, seemed happier than ever. She spent hours in her room, humming songs no one had taught her. Sometimes Sarah would pause outside her door and listen. Lily's voice would fade, replaced by another, older, softer, with a chilling calmness. "She's teaching me her lullaby," Lily explained when asked. "Miss Eliza says it helps her sleep." That name again. Miss Eliza. Mark brushed it off until one night while painting he heard a woman's voice whisper right beside his ear. The words were unintelligible, but the tone was unmistakably angry. The brush slipped from his hand, streaking red paint across the wall, except it wasn't red paint. It looked darker, thicker, more like blood. He turned on the light, blinking rapidly. It was paint again. Shaking his head, he told no one. Later, while Sarah read through the old diary she'd found in the basement, she uncovered a chilling entry dated 1893. "Eliza Hargrove has taken to the mirror again. She says it speaks to her, tells her secrets of the house, but her eyes are no longer her own." As Sarah read the last line, she heard a knock from the wall behind her desk. 3 steady knocks, followed by a whisper that chilled her to the bone. We're still here." The following morning, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The whisper from the wall replayed in her mind, like an echo that refused to fade. Mark, trying to distract her, decided to finally clean out the attic. Lily insisted on helping, her small hands clutching her favorite doll. The attic was thick with dust, filled with old trunks and covered furniture. Cobwebs hung like curtains and the air smelled of mold and rot. As Mark pried open a large wooden chest, Lily wandered toward a covered object leaning against the wall. She tugged at the cloth, revealing a tall, ornate mirror framed in black iron. Its glass surface shimmered strangely, almost like it was breathing. "Don't touch that, Lily," Sarah warned sharply. But the little girl had already reached out, pressing her palm against the glass. For a brief second, her reflection didn't move with her. It smiled. That night, Sarah dreamt of the mirror. In the dream, she stood before it, staring into endless darkness. Behind her reflection stood a woman in a long black dress, her face hidden by a lace veil. When Sarah turned in the dream, no one was there. But the woman's hand emerged from the mirror, gripping her shoulder with icy fingers. She woke up gasping. Beside her, Lily was standing silently, staring at the wall. "Miss Eliza says she likes her mirror back," Lily whispered before walking away. The next morning, Sarah went to the attic again. The mirror was gone. Only a faint outline remained where it had stood. And written in the dust below it were the words, "She's watching." The morning after the mirror vanished, the house felt heavier, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. Sarah tried to convince herself it was all in her mind, but when she walked past the hallway mirror, she froze. In the glass just over her shoulder, she saw the faint outline of a woman dressed in black, face hidden behind a lace veil. When she spun around, nothing was there. That night, strange things started happening. The air turned icy cold without warning. Lights flickered violently, and every mirror in the house began to fog from the inside out, forming streaks that looked like fingerprints. Mark, ever the skeptic, insisted on checking the electrical wiring. But when he reached the bathroom mirror, he saw something that made him stumble backward. His reflection blinked a few seconds after he did. "Sarah," he whispered shakily, "there's something wrong with the mirrors." Later that evening, as Sarah tucked Lily into bed, she noticed the child whispering to her doll again. "Miss Eliza says she's almost here," Lily said in a soft, dreamy tone. "She says she needs someone to take her place." Sarah's blood ran cold. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" she asked. But Lily only smiled, a vacant, unnatural smile, and turned toward the corner of the room. When Sarah followed her gaze, she saw the same woman from her dream standing there, just beyond the dim light. The figure didn't move. Her veil fluttered slightly, though there was no breeze. Then came a whisper that chilled her to her core. "You brought her home." By the fifth night, the house had become a living nightmare. Every corner whispered, every floorboard groaned like something underneath was breathing. Sarah began hearing faint knocks in the walls. 3 taps, then silence, then 3 more. Mark insisted it was just the pipes, but she could feel it. Someone was inside. Lily had grown quiet and distant. She spoke less now, except when she whispered to her doll. Sarah overheard one chilling phrase while passing her room. "Yes, Miss Eliza. I'll help you stay." Later that night, Mark stayed up to watch the walls. As the house fell silent, the knocking started again. Slow, deliberate, traveling across the room. He pressed his ear against the wall and froze. There was a voice, a faint, rasping whisper. "Don't look for me." He stumbled back, pale, calling for Sarah. When she came running, the voice grew louder, vibrating through the walls. "You brought her back," it hissed. Then came a sound like fingernails scraping inside the drywall, moving toward them. Lily's door creaked open by itself. She was standing there holding her doll, her eyes unfocused. "She's angry because you don't believe," Lily said softly. "She doesn't like when people don't believe." Suddenly, the hallway lights flickered and went out. From the darkness came a loud thud inside the wall, followed by what sounded like a woman's scream, long, guttural, and impossibly close. When the lights flickered back, a long crack had appeared in the wall where Mark had been listening. From inside it, a cold breeze escaped, carrying the faint scent of decay, and beneath the plaster, something moved. The next morning, Mark decided to find out what was behind the wall. He couldn't sleep, haunted by that whisper, "You brought her back." Armed with a crowbar and flashlight, he began tearing through the cracked plaster, while Sarah tried to keep Lily occupied downstairs. Dust and paint flakes filled the air. The moment his crowbar hit something hollow, the room seemed to grow colder. Beneath the wall, Mark uncovered a rotted wooden door, sealed shut with nails and symbols carved into the frame. It was as though someone had tried to lock something inside. Sarah joined him, trembling. "This isn't right, Mark. We should stop." But he shook his head. "If something's in there, we need to know." When he pried the door open, a rush of cold air escaped, heavy with the stench of mold and something far worse. Inside was a narrow hidden room, no more than a few feet wide. The walls were covered in peeling wallpaper, stained with what looked like old dried blood. In the center sat a small rocking chair, perfectly still at first, until it began to move. Slowly, back and forth, Sarah screamed. Mark's flashlight flickered violently as the chair creaked. Behind it, faint writing appeared on the wall, scrawled in something dark and uneven. "She never left." Then came a sound, soft at first, like humming. A woman's lullaby echoing from the shadows of the tiny room. The rocking chair sped up, the humming turning to sobbing, and from the corner of the wall, a pale, skeletal hand reached out, dragging along the floorboards. Mark dropped the flashlight. In that instant of darkness, they both heard it again. A whisper, this time right beside Sarah's ear. "You opened her door." Sarah and Mark stumbled backward as the pale hand retreated into the dark. The humming stopped, replaced by an unbearable silence that seemed to press against their skulls. Sarah gripped Mark's arm. "We have to leave," she whispered. But before he could answer, the door slammed shut on its own, sealing them inside the hall. The air thickened with a sour, suffocating smell. Then they heard it, a faint scratching like nails dragging on wood. It came from inside the wall. Mark raised the flashlight again. The beam trembled as it landed on the wallpaper. It was bulging outward, slowly, rhythmically, as if something inside was trying to breathe. Suddenly, the wall tore open. A woman's figure emerged, twisted and contorted, her face half decayed yet frozen in an expression of unbearable grief. Her long black hair hung like a veil, and her eyes were two hollow pits of despair. Sarah screamed. Mark froze. The woman raised her trembling hand toward them and whispered in a voice that made their bones ache, "You let me out. Now you'll stay with me." The flashlight died. In the pitch black, Sarah could feel the icy air swirl around her, the brush of hair against her cheek, and a faint sob echoing inches from her ear. When the light flickered back to life, the woman was gone. But the wallpaper was covered in handprints, bloody, desperate, clawing marks that spelled a single word over and over again. "Stay!" Downstairs, Lily's laughter suddenly turned into a scream. Mark and Sarah ran. But as they reached the bottom of the stairs, they froze in horror. Lily stood facing the wall, her small hand pressed against it. In a soft, trembling voice, she said, "She says she's my new mommy." Mark lunged toward Lily, pulling her away from the wall, but she screamed and thrashed violently in his arms. Her small body convulsed with unnatural strength, her voice suddenly deeper, older, almost two voices speaking at once. "She belongs to me now." The guttural voice growled. Sarah tried to hold Lily's face, tears streaking her cheeks. "Baby, please, it's Mommy." But Lily's eyes rolled back, leaving only whites. The room temperature dropped so sharply that their breath became visible. A gust of wind blew through the hallway, even though every door was closed. The family portraits on the wall fell one by one, glass shattering in unison. The lights flickered, then turned blood red. Mark, desperate, grabbed the old Bible he found earlier in the attic. He began reading passages he barely remembered, his trembling voice echoing through the house. Lily screamed so loud the walls seemed to pulse with sound. Her body levitated several inches off the floor as Sarah held her hands in terror. The whispering returned, hundreds of faint voices surrounding them, circling, chanting in agony. Then suddenly, silence. Lily dropped to the floor, motionless. Sarah collapsed beside her, sobbing. Mark knelt down and pressed his ear to her chest. A heartbeat. Weak but there. But before relief could settle, a cold laugh echoed from the stairs. The same female voice, now stronger, mocking. "You can't read me away, Mark. This house is mine." A dark shadow slithered down the staircase, a figure of pure black mist that twisted and took form. The woman from the wall returning, smiling with sharp, rotten teeth. And as lightning flashed outside, the words "Help us" appeared in glowing letters on the walls around them, written from inside the plaster. The storm outside raged like never before. Thunder cracked, shaking the walls as Mark and Sarah dragged Lily toward the front door. But it slammed shut with such force that the hinges bent. The windows fogged up, and on each pane a single word appeared written in dripping condensation. "Stay." Sarah screamed, pounding on the door. "We have to get out," she cried. Mark turned to the shadowed staircase, where the ghostly woman now stood fully visible. Pale skin, black eyes, and a faint smile that carried centuries of pain. She slowly descended, her feet not touching the floor, the hem of her old tattered dress dragging across the wood like a whisper. Lily began mumbling something, her voice monotone. "She died here. She was buried here." The words made no sense until the floorboards under them creaked open slightly, revealing dark soil beneath. Mark's breath caught in his throat. "The body," he whispered. "She was never moved." He ran to the shed and grabbed a shovel, returning to tear up the floorboards while the ghost loomed closer. Each strike of the shovel made the house shake, and faint screams echoed from the walls. Sarah clutched Lily tightly as the air grew thick with the stench of decay. Finally, Mark struck something solid, bones wrapped in fragments of an old black dress. The moment the skeleton was exposed, the ghost shrieked, her form flickering violently. Mark shouted over the chaos, "We'll end this! Give her peace!" He crossed himself and began to pray loudly, his words trembling but fierce. The ghost's scream turned to a wail, the walls bleeding black tar as her body began to dissolve. Then, silence. The air grew still. The lights flickered one last time and went out completely. Morning sunlight crept through the shattered windows of the farmhouse, painting the dust in golden streaks. The storm had passed. The eerie silence that filled the air felt unnatural, heavy, as if the house itself were holding its breath. Mark, Sarah, and Lily sat huddled in the living room, their eyes hollow, their minds struggling to believe they were still alive. The floor where the bones had been unearthed was now cold and still. The remains, now resting in a clean linen sheet, lay in the center of the room. The house, once filled with whispers, footsteps, and cries, was completely quiet. For the first time in decades, it seemed, at peace. As dawn fully broke, a faint humming drifted through the air, soft and melodic. Sarah froze. Lily looked up and whispered, "That's her. She's singing." The sound wasn't threatening anymore. It was mournful, a lullaby of release. Mark stepped outside for the first time since the night began. The sky was clear, washed clean by the rain. He looked back at the old farmhouse, its dark windows now glinting faintly in the sun. It seemed smaller somehow. Just another broken house with a tragic history. The local authorities arrived hours later, puzzled but respectful. When the bones were taken away for burial, the strange coldness that had haunted the land lifted. Birds returned to the fields, and the rustling of the trees no longer sounded like whispers. Years later, people who passed by the property said they sometimes heard faint singing when the wind blew just right. A ghostly lullaby carried through time, but no one ever saw the figure again. The house stood silent, and for the first time in a century, she rested.